Hello, and welcome to Security Leaders, the podcast where we speak to security managers, chief security officers, and professionals from across the security spectrum. I'm Neil Sutton, editor of Canadian Security Magazine. My guest for this episode is Paula-Marie Jannetta. Paula-Marie is an accomplished emergency management and business continuity professional with more than 15 years' experience in the field. She has served in program management positions at both municipal and provincial levels, as well as non-government and post-secondary organizations across Ontario. In her current role, Paula-Marie serves as president of the Ontario Association of Emergency Managers. I recently spoke with Paula-Marie about her role at the association, as well as some of the challenges that emergency managers across the nation are facing today. Before my conversation with Paula-Marie, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Commissionaires.
There can be an over-reliance on technology as a silver bullet to resolve all the ills. Technology is about a tool. It really comes down to the operators and having those individuals understand the role that they play, not only for client safety and security, but the security and safety of the community as a whole. I'm Don Thompson, Director of Operations for Commissionaires Hamilton. If you'd like to learn more about Commissionaires, please visit commissionaires.ca.
Tell us more about your background in emergency management and what interested you in getting into this field.
What a pleasure to talk with you today, Neil, and thank you so much for having me. Well, I'm an emergency management practitioner with many years of experience at the municipal and provincial levels. I was very fortunate to be asked to contribute to the Marine Emergency Response Team while working with Petro-Canada many years ago. And I was living in Toronto at the time and could barely afford even a single course in emergency management. However, I struggled to put together $350 and join the Applied Disaster and Emergency Studies program at Brandon University online. And it was then that I became aware of the field of emergency management. And since then, I gained hands-on experience while working at many organizations such as Niagara Region as the Program Development Manager and Alternate Community Emergency Management Coordinator, at Emergency Management Ontario as the Emergency Management Advisor. I provided assistance and direction to ministries implementing their emergency management programs. And also at Niagara College's Campus Safety and Security Department as their first emergency management and business continuity coordinator. And I gained experience working with an outstanding security team led by the great David Jesterbecki. And then on to the Ministry of Transportation, where I served as the Ministry Emergency Management Advisor with a highly operational role as the 24/7 MTO duty officer, monitoring major multimodal incidents across Ontario. We were responsible for preparing and sharing situation reports at various levels of government. And then I served as the emergency management specialist with the Region of Peel. But I think my most important experience in my entire career, however, was in 2005, when I was deployed by the Canadian and American Red Cross to provide relief support in Mississippi for Hurricane Katrina and saw the complete destruction of infrastructure and community in disaster. I recognized very early in my career that relationships across diverse sectors is the key to success in building response capacity and enhancing communication, coordination, and cooperation. And when EMO introduced the term capacity building many years ago, I was driven to realize the benefits of multi-stakeholder collaboration. And successful planning, operational response is due to trusted relationships, training, and integrated exercises. So what really interests me about the field of emergency management is how an emergency plan, an architectural blueprint, is operationalized in the field. I'm learning more about unified command in the field because its formation is based on multi-sector, multidisciplinary roles and skill sets. I'm also interested in the convergence between emergency management and business continuity professionals working in public and private sectors and how they integrate in terms of creating response plans for critical infrastructure protection. I am very proud of my colleagues who have earned graduate degrees in emergency management and new professionals who will lead the next generation. I'm certainly not an academic, but I'm focused on operational skills and training.
So in addition to your extensive background in emergency management, you're currently the president of the Ontario Association of Emergency Managers. Can you tell us more about how you came to join that organization and what your role is there right now?
Entirely my pleasure. First, OAEM is a professional volunteer association representing the interests of Ontario's public and private sector emergency management community since 2004. So on behalf of our diverse members, we work to advance key issues affecting the future of emergency management while we promote information exchange, professional development, and collaboration. Most importantly, OAEM is a community, an extensive network of emergency managers who contribute to and benefit from information exchange. I was introduced to OAEM in 2001 and reached out to volunteer my time and hopefully gain some experience to support my fledgling career at the time, and I attended all of their events. Today, I am the proud president of Ontario's Professional Association and work with a well-recognized and accomplished board of directors with specializations that I truly admire. I see myself as a custodian of the association, providing strategic leadership and direction. And as I've said many times, leadership is not about the leader, it's about the growth and positive change that a leader can bring about while working with others. And just yesterday, I prepared a list of past presidents with the intention of recognizing their leadership and developing an informal gathering to gain their input and direction for the future.
Thank you. Maybe we should talk a bit more about some of the implications of emergencies that are facing the Canadian professional today, whether it's health related or weather related. It seems to be like an onslaught of emergencies that professionals in this field have to deal with. But what do you think are some of the biggest issues that are facing professionals such as yourself today?
Well, that's a very important question. And certainly the emergencies are evolving. OAEM's first annual membership survey revealed the following in terms of issues and opportunities. Now, this was input directly from our members, representing various sectors and disciplines. Climate change was top ranked as one of the most important issues facing Ontarians and Canadians. Emergency management for First Nation communities, pandemic preparedness, dealing with increased frequency of emergencies and multiple emergencies simultaneously, with recommendations to increase the mitigation planning, and of course, the identification of vulnerable populations in relation to hazard. Creating a network of shared practices and resources across the province. And to address that, OAEM is creating a living resource library for our members, sharing of resources and best practices, and also specialized training. I personally feel that there needs to be greater focus on recovery operations such as debris management. And I believe that the greatest opportunity is inclusivity, the integration of public and private sector emergency managers with diverse skill sets and disciplines. For example, the application of GIS specialization within the Emergency Operations Center, and ensuring that private sector owners of infrastructure, such as long-term care homes, are provided the necessary training in emergency management. The requirements as set out in the Fixing Long-Term Care Act section 268 is a prime example of that expectation. I think finally, I truly believe in community preparedness. Emergency management is a shared responsibility, and the public needs to take steps to educate themselves on hazards and their impacts and be prepared in the event of a major disaster or infrastructure outage. And we only see examples from just a couple of weeks ago about massive power outs during the storm right across Ontario.
Maybe if I could just ask you sort of a follow-up question there. We seem to be sort of like past the worst of the pandemic, hopefully, knock on wood. But are there any lessons that we've learned from going through this experience from the emergency management point of view that we could take forward that will help us prepare for potential future health emergencies?
I think one of the most important lessons learned is to have an integrated pandemic and infrastructure business continuity plan, and to work with various levels of government and public and private sector stakeholders, and to ensure that plan is operational. In other words, ensure that you have supplier agreements, vendor agreements, understanding the alert and notification protocols, being able to respond in a coordinated manner and have crisis communication outreach to the public that's also coordinated within the various agencies. I think that is one of the most important lessons learned.
And through the association, you recently acknowledged all the great work that our first responders are doing. Can you tell us a bit more about how you facilitated First Responders Day and how you put together a video presentation for that?
I'm so glad you asked me that question. What a great event. It all began when I started to think about diversity in emergency management and the multi-sector, multidisciplinary response community. I reached out to several of my colleagues, and in particular, Jason Reed, Senior Advisor, National Life Safety Group, who was instrumental in introducing us, Neil. We talked about the vital role of frontline security professionals and their contribution to emergency management. And then he referred me to Rob McDonald, our past OAEM president from many years ago, who provided me with an overview of the First Responders Day Act 2013. Today, we celebrate First Responders Day on May 1st each year. So in recognition of First Responders Day in Ontario, OAEM hosted their inaugural annual event, bringing together the first responder community across Ontario. I proceeded to ask Ontario's first responder community for a simple 90-second recorded video tribute as part of OAEM's Emergency Management Spotlight Series, Take the Floor event. Recorded tributes recognizing and honoring first responders were received from Premier Doug Ford, the Honorable Solicitor General Sylvia Jones, police, fire, paramedics, emergency management coordinators, frontline security personnel, the Ontario Public Works Association, mobile crisis intervention teams, Ontario EMET, NGO Alliance, International Bridge and Utility Operators. These videos were coming in at a fast pace, and we were simply on cloud nine. See our video production at oaem.ca under events.
Perfect, thank you. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us today, and we wish you best of luck with the association and your future First Responder Day events, which I'm sure there will be many. But thank you for sharing your perspectives with us today.
Neil, I would like to thank you for this opportunity and wish you ongoing success with Canadian security.
Thank you to my guest, Paula-Marie Jannetta, and our podcast sponsor, Commissionaires. You can find more security-themed podcasts at canadiansecuritymag.com. I'm Neil Sutton. Thanks for listening.